Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Portia Fraser from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Export Development. And here with me this afternoon we have Ambassador Colin Murdoch from the OECS mission in Geneva and Deputy Director General Ms. Johanna Hill. I will give them the opportunity to introduce themselves and tell you a bit about why we're here this afternoon and what we're here to discuss. Deputy Director, and go ahead.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Johanna Hill from the World Trade Organization. We are here with Ambassador Murdoch on a visit to the OECS region to talk about the role of trade and how the agreements of the World Trade Organization can be implemented and taken advantage of for the benefit of people, and some new agreements that are coming into effect soon, and how the different OECS countries and Grenada can take advantage of these new opportunities that are coming along.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador Murdoch.
Thank you so much. My name is Colin Murdoch, and I am the OECS ambassador in Geneva, head of the OECS mission, and we are here to accompany Deputy Director General Hill and to the OECS region, and to engage in discussions with senior trade officials and with the political directorate, the ministers, to discuss how OECS and the WTO can be more engaged on various levels, with the ultimate purpose being development.
Okay. Wonderful. First question, we start with a round of questions. We have a fork in the road in international relations, or as some would say, an inflection point with multiple crises. And the global order, as we know it, is at risk of fragmentation. What is the role of the WTO in maintaining a more stable and predictable way?
Effectively, trade has come under stress in the last few years. COVID-19 pandemic, inflation, a different political crisis, geopolitical strains and relations have been really testing the system, but it has shown to be quite resilient. This year, we're forecasting a 2.6 growth trade in goods. Last year, services trade grew by 8%. And so we are hoping that the system will be able to respond even under crisis. But we do see that there are risks of fragmentation, and that might test the system even further. But as we look at the difficulties that are coming ahead, I don't think we can lose sight of opportunities that are also out there. And one of them being the opportunity of re-globalization. And what do we mean by that? It means, how do we get more countries and more groups within countries to participate in world trade and take advantage of globalization by, for example, coming into new supply chains that before might have been closed to some in the region, but maybe now there are more opportunities. And so this is some of the work that we would like to be exploring going further on how the world trading system can be more inclusive and allow for more participation of different world players.
The WTO has come in for criticism in recent times. For starters, the dispute settlement system is not functioning at full capacity due to the inability of members to appeal panel decisions. The agriculture negotiations have been at an impasse for over 20 years. The fishery subsidies negotiations are still unfinished after 20 years. In general, with respect to its core functions, negotiations, dispute settlement, and monitoring, there are deficiencies. Against this backdrop, is the WTO still relevant, and especially so for small and vulnerable economies or small countries like Grenada, would you say?
Well, for me, I would say the short answer is yes, because for small countries, microeconomies such as we are in OECS, the WTO is vital for us. We have no other alternative, and the WTO is what protects us. So we would like to see the WTO survive and thrive. But yes, you're correct that we have had long delays in negotiations on different files, in agriculture, in fisheries. We have achieved some success in fisheries, in Fish 1 and Fish 2 is under discussion. With respect to dispute settlement, yes, the dispute settlement was disabled by one member, but now we have ongoing discussions on what could replace or what reforms could take place that would satisfy the members that we have a viable two-tier dispute settlement system that all the members have confidence in. So, in sum, with all its flaws, it's still a beautiful WTO.
Wonderful. And DDG, can you speak a bit about the fishery subsidies negotiation?
Yes, I think it's a very important point that you're making because it speaks to some of the relevant work that we're doing thanks to the participation of member states. So as you might recall, at the Ministerial Conference number 12 in 2022, members finally agreed on a fisheries subsidies agreement by consensus, which the whole OECS supported, obviously including Grenada. After that, members started a new negotiation on some other issues regarding the fisheries subsidies that were still pending to be decided. So we call them Fish 1 and Fish 2. Right now, the membership is working on getting Fish 1 in effect or in order. And for that to happen, we need 2/3 of the membership to ratify the agreement, meaning 111 members. Right now, we are up to 81. And so the work coming forward is facilitating discussions with the different member states on what it would take to ratify the agreement, especially because for developing countries and those that have a high participation in the fisheries sector, there is a fish fund that will support implementation efforts. And so this morning we had important conversations at the highest political level regarding this file, and we have received good news. In the sense that Grenada is looking at this agreement and seeing how it can move forward, not only in terms of paperwork, of getting something across the finish line. The discussion was more on how can we use this agreement for our fisheries sector, especially after Hurricane Beryl has come, and we're always looking for ways to make our fisheries more sustainable, more resilient. And so the conversation was a lot around that. We also had very good discussions on other agreements that are coming into the fore, not despite the challenges that we are facing, obviously. And it is the investment facilitation agreement, which Grenada has also been participating actively. And this agreement, what it tries to do is, as the title says, facilitate investment, both local and foreign, by making a more business-friendly environment. And this work has already started. The agreement was finalized in January of this year. But since last year, the OECS countries have been working on a needs assessment to identify what are the principal commitments and opportunities in the agreement. Where are the gaps where technical assistance and cooperation will be needed? So I'm really admiring the region for taking the step forward. We are realizing that in order to improve our export performance, investment is necessary. Not only public sector investment on infrastructure, but private sector investment is incredibly important. And anything that we can bring to the table from the world trading system that will enhance the investment environment and will bring these investments, allows countries to participate in supply chains, allows medium and small enterprise to come into the supply chains through local providers. Many opportunities, and so we also talked about the work that is being done in that area and what more needs to happen.
The public-private partnership is very important. The MSMEs are very important, and of course the fishery agreement will become a very important pillar for the official portion of Grenada and the OECS. What are some of the main priorities for the WTO in the short to medium-term future?
We're working on a number of files. As we said, the investment facilitation agreement and fisheries are definitely a priority. Reform, dispute settlement is something that's also a priority for our members. At MC 13, that was in Abu Dhabi this year, members also, with the full support of the OECS and CARICOM, put in the ministerial declaration a paragraph calling on the importance of promoting services trade. because some economies are really strong in the services area, but want to take advantage even more of the opportunities in order to improve their development prospects. And so a paragraph was agreed to in the ministerial conference to give more attention to this work. And so today we talked about some of the opportunities that are coming up to work in this area. One is the Joint Statement Initiative Agreement that came into effect in Abu Dhabi this year on services domestic regulation, which basically tries to make the services environment more predictable, more transparent, more stable, more efficient, so that services exporters will be more competitive abroad. And also it helps to attract foreign investment in the services area. The other initiative is a joint project with the World Bank called Services Trade for Development. And in it diagnoses some of the many opportunities that developing countries have in services trade, but also recognizes the challenges that many of these economies have, and therefore proposes an aid for trade program that can help overcome those challenges. It has to do with data collection and statistics in services. It has to do also with mapping regulations. It also has to do with then having a competitiveness tool, a diagnostics tool to see where these economies have a competitive edge or need to develop one. And finally, it talks about the importance of joining this work with the work of export promotion agencies and investment promotion agencies in the area of services. And finally, also in July of this year, a group of members finalized the negotiations of the e-commerce agreement. And this agreement looks to promote digital trade by having common rules and understandings on the basics. So that was another area that we talked about, and about the possibility of the different OECS countries to gain more information of what these agreements are about and analyze them to see how they might or might not benefit these economies and see if they can join. So we've been having very productive discussions. We also talked about some of the other international organizations, such as the World Bank, that are partnering with us in order to facilitate the taking advantage of the opportunities that come with these agreements. Because in the end, what we want to ensure is that citizens, that their livelihoods get improved, be it fishermen, be it is someone in the agricultural sector, somebody that's producing spices. So all the different sectors in services area, we want to ensure that the agreements really speak and attend their needs.
Okay. How can small states like Grenada ensure that they have a voice in the OECS, given the OECS membership is 164 countries, soon to be 166, and you have a lot of large players? Consider our population, only 100 to 110,000, and you have larger countries with millions. How can our voice be heard and in the WTO?
Well, the first step, I would think, and that's a real strong question. The first step, I think, is Grenada is a member of OECS, and I think collectively, Grenada has a stronger voice as part of the OECS. I found when I came to Geneva and started participating in WTO that one of the hardest things is getting onto the radar. You mentioned that you represent OECS, and you can tell from the other person's face that they don't know what OECS is. And so that's the first step, becoming known, getting onto the radar. Because if you're not known, then your interests cannot be taken into account. So we try very hard to make the other members understand what OECS is, the nature of the economies that make up OECS, and then we try to make them understand what our interests are as very small states, because WTO policies are built by the agreement of the member states, and the policies are built on consensus. So you build a consensus, and a consensus is often like the least common denominator. So quite often it doesn't take account of extremes at either end. The very big countries, let us say, and also the very small countries like Grenada and other OECS members. So you have to kind of insert yourself into the conversation and make sure that your interests are heard and make proposals, I think, that not only satisfy your interests, but proposals that can garner the support and the consensus of other member states. And that's what we try to do as the OECS mission in Geneva. It's a very small mission, but we work very hard to promote the interests of the OECS member states, and we think that the other member states in the WTO are actually beginning to listen.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Well, the mere fact that Deputy Director General Joanna Hill is here, that means somebody has been listening.
Well, let me tell you, we were so excited when DGG Hill indicated that she wished to come to the region. And we think it's, actually a bit of a coup. And I think it will benefit both sides. I think WTO will learn a lot about the actual nature of the OECS economies, on the ground, practical things. And I think OECS will also become more engaged and fill in some of those gaps that we have in our engagement with the WTO, both in terms of, the Secretariat and what is available from the Secretariat, and also in terms of the other members, the membership. I think we can achieve good things in those areas.
Great. Today, we know that you would have met with key stakeholders, ministers and government, other government agencies. Can you tell us what are your key takeaways from those meetings, the sessions you've had from this morning into this evening? The key takeaways.
I found that everyone is very knowledgeable of the work that we are doing at the World Trade Organization, and also very engaged in different projects and activities. And so I was very pleased to see that some of the technical assistance that we have been undertaking with Grenada is actually moving forward in a positive way, be it the needs assessments in investment facilitation for development, be it in projects that have to do with trade facilitation and a single window. So hearing about how those projects are going, I think was one of my biggest takeaways. The second takeaway, I think that the ministers were very clear in the areas that they see that they would like to work further, that have to do with fisheries, that have to do with agriculture, with getting the rural areas more engaged in trade and what that would mean and what that would take. And also, I was very pleased to see the offer of Grenada to serve as a bridge to other OECS and even CARICOM members on some of the different issues that we were discussing today, so that they can raise awareness of what is happening and even give us an opportunity to participate directly in a meeting or two, so that we can share with them the latest state of play on all these issues that are of importance.
Ambassador Murdoch, as ambassador to the OECS mission in Geneva, what is your key takeaways from today, from your perspective? What are the takeaways from today?
Well, generally, I found the meetings had a very positive quality. I found that the ministers and all the teams, the technical teams, were very well informed about the WTO and engaged constructively about, in fact, how Grenada can engage further with WTO. I think what I got was that Grenada sees the WTO as being very relevant to its development, and that there is a role for trade in development. In fact, I think the minister responsible for agriculture, Minister Andrew, in fact, I think he mentioned that there is no development without trade and without export. And I think that is so true. And so I see Grenada as being very focused on utilizing what the WTO has to offer not only in terms of technical assistance and capacity building, but also in terms of all the agreements that are already in play or that are being developed. And I think Grenada intends, along with the other OECS members, to play a constructive role in whether it is in e-commerce, whether it is in dispute settlement reform, or whether it is in Fish 2 or any of the other files. I think you will find that Grenada and OECS intend to be positive and intend to be constructive.
Thank you, Ambassador Lady G. Hill. Any other thing you want to highlight from today's visit or anything going next steps for the future? Where do you see?
We also talked about other opportunities and other issues that we haven't really had a chance to mention. For example, the work that is ongoing with the standards and trade facility, because compliance with standards for exports is a very important area to work. And we also talked about professional development, which is an area that I'm very excited about. Opportunities for young professionals to come to the Secretariat and spend some time with us. The OECS mission also talked about opportunities to work with them. Also, the mid-career program to have mid-career professionals come to the Secretariat for some time. I think these opportunities are really beneficial, though I know that in, smaller economies, the ministries are staffed in a way that it's not easy to let someone go for 3-6 months. But I really think it's important for Grenada to continue engaging with the World Trade Organization and continue investing as you have been in your professional services because the world is changing so fast. New technologies are coming in, new issues are coming up. And, sometimes in the news, only some issues come up. But the work that we're doing at the organization is much, much larger and broader than that. And the more you know, the more that you can bring back home.
Yes, most definitely. Ambassador?
Well, I would just like to, in the same way that we try to put OECS on the radar in Geneva, I would like to put the OECS mission on the radar in Grenada and the other OECS member states. That may sound a bit odd, but I just want to emphasize that we, in our mission, we are your representatives in Geneva, and we place ourselves at your disposal. And whatever is required, that is our job, and we will work tirelessly. And I'm sure we will get support from DDG Hill to help the OECS to utilize trade to create a better path to development for the OECS member states. And that is our job. And we work tirelessly at that. We wake up every morning, and that's what we do.
Right. Thank you. And from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Export Development, we want to thank you both for taking the time out to come to Grenada, for us, giving us the opportunity to express ourselves, bring up the challenges, the issues, the positivity that we're getting from the OECS thus far. Because from Grenada, I can say from the Ministry of Trade, we have benefited from technical assistance and training capacity building. So we look forward to continued working relationship with the WTO in all of our agreements and more assistance in whatever form that it may come, as well as we will continue our work with the OECS Geneva mission and the OECS mission and commission in St. Lucia as well. So once again, we want to say thank you both for your visit today, and we look forward to continued dialogue, discussions as we continue for trade and development. Thank you.
We thank you for the hospitality and a lot of work ahead.
We will work out.